Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, I guess. I don't know if anyone is across the seas. Thank you so much for joining us today. There's already quite a few people that are now trickling in from the waiting room, so we'll go ahead and give everyone just a few minutes to get loaded into the platform. But again, every single time, I always want to play like elevator music because it just feels so like
Yeah,
I don't know, right? So just can you beatbox?
I
No.
wish I could.
Okay, no, we won't go ahead and do that. Cool, awesome. So we know how busy you folks can get. We want to be respectful of your time. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're recording this webinar, so anyone that's joining us live right now, following the webinar, we'll make sure to send you a recording of this. Anyone that registered that wasn't able to attend, we will make sure to send you a recording of that webinar as well. But before we jump into that, again, I just want to thank you guys so much for joining us on these webinars. It's been a really fun year. It's crazy that we've done this for a full year now, and it's been really fun to be engaged and part of your journeys and making sure that you guys are getting the best client book experience. A little bit of ground rules first before we hop into the webinar. I just want to mention, so we're going to really be emphasizing associate assignments, right? We made a really big change to our platform last month, and this webinar is an effort to address those changes and make sure that you and your team are set up for success, and we're all aware of those changes. Meg and I have a presentation prepared that will roughly, we imagine, take about 20 to 30 minutes or so. Following the presentation, we'll have a Q&A section. So down below on your screen in Zoom, there should be a Q&A icon. Utilize that Q&A to ask your questions. You can ask your questions throughout the webinar. On the back end, we actually have Adam who's joining us as part of our customer success team. Depending on what the questions are asked, if it's a little bit more relevant to your store, he may hop in there and answer those questions live, and you'll see those responses come through. But please send your questions our way. We want to help answer your questions that you may have. But we'll be answering those questions at the end of the webinar. So just know you can submit your questions at any time, but we'll make sure to review them and answer them at the end of your webinar. Cool. So diving into it. First, I guess, sorry, introductions first. I'm Josh. I'm the manager of the customer success team here at Clientbook. And Meg, go ahead. Do you want to introduce?
I am one of the CSMs here at Clientbook, and I'm really excited to be here.
Cool, awesome. By the way, this is Meg's first time at a webinar, so she's super nervous. So make sure you ask the hardest questions.
Yeah.
Get her as flustered as possible. We want it anyway. No, thank you, Meg, for joining us. So just a brief overview first. I want to take a little bit of time to review what we talked about last month, right? So I invited Todd, our VP of product, to kind of share what they've accomplished last year, what they've accomplished so far this year, maybe a little bit sneak peek into the future. So just a really brief high-level overview. The big things that were covered last month as we talked about this associate assignment change. We'll dive more into that here in this webinar. The other really big things that we kind of talked about were our brand partnerships and our unified inbox. And I'm happy to report there's a lot of great usage and a lot of cool things that are coming from these brand partnerships and from this unified inbox. So just kind of a brief overview of that. So when it comes to our brand partnerships, we've launched with A. Jaffe and Takori. And if there's anyone here that's part of this call that carries either Takori or A. Jaffe that would like to learn more about this brand partnership and how it can be a benefit for you and your team, we would love to connect with you and get that feature enabled. And then part of our unified inbox, right? So we have Google reviews and Facebook that are live right now. It's still in beta for lack of a better term, but from our last webinar, we had about 20 merchants raise their hand to be a part of this, and they're absolutely loving it, right? So if you send a Google review to a client and they give you a review, that shows up in your store inbox, and you can respond to that Google review, and actually shows up in your Google review thread feed, right? So it's a really easy way to stay connected. So now, because we get a lot of questions from people like, hey, I sent them a Google review, do they leave us a review? You can now answer that question, right? And then part of that as well is having Facebook, those messages coming through. It's really creating a cohesive kind of platform so you can respond and clientele more effectively with all these different channels. So before we kind of dive into associate assignments, Well, I guess the first thing I want to mention as well, I want to do a little bit of polling, right? The first thing that I want to mention is this associate assignments, right? And we had mentioned last time, we have a really cool ability if we're integrated with your point of sale to help you redistribute your associate assignments. Effectively, since we have your data, what we can do is we can look at the last, say, 2 years of your purchase history, and we can say, well, these clients need to be assigned to associate A, B, C, right, based on that purchase history. Effectively, what we do is we clear out the current assignments that you have within the platform, and then based on this report, we can help redistribute your assignments or your associates for you, right? So this is a service that we're more than happy to accomplish for you. So diving into that portion of it first, if anyone on this call wants help redistributing their associate assignments, I want to throw a poll in. Oops, sorry. Let me throw in a poll real quick, because we would love to help you and your team when it comes to these associate assignments. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll right here. You don't have to respond yes. If you want to learn more, if you want to make sure that this is the right thing for you and your team and your store, your CSM would love to connect with you as well. So if you want to take a few seconds as well to mark if you want your CSM to reach out to you. Like I said, effectively what we do is we look at your associate assignments, and then based on purchase history, we will help redistribute who should be assigned to who. I can see quite a few people are answering that poll. I'll give you guys a few more seconds. The other way that I want to mention as well is, from your point of sale, if there's a better report or a different report that you want associate assignments based off of, you could always export that data and provide it to your CSM, and we're more than happy to upload that information for you. So we'll go ahead, we'll give everyone just a few more seconds to answer this poll if you want assistance with the redistribution of associates. Perfect. Okay, so the next poll that I wanted to bring up was this brand partnership, right? So we have, like I said, A Jaffe and Decory that are live right now. So for this next poll, what I want to do is if there's anyone that's part of this call that carries either Decory or A Jaffe, or maybe both, and you want this feature enabled, or if you would want your CSM to reach out to you to kind of learn more about this brand partnership, we would love to connect with you and to get this feature enabled. As people are answering those questions, just kind of a high level overview, what this brand partnership does for you, first and foremost, which I think is super cool, is we'll connect the brand catalog within Clientbook itself, right? And the reason why this is cool, I actually had a conversation with one of my stores just the other week where I asked them, what is your workflow, right? They carried A Jaffe, for example, and she explained to me, she said, well, we go to the A Jaffe website, we download a photo, or maybe we take a screenshot of the ring that they're interested in, and then we'll text them that ring, we'll upload it to Clientbook, right? She was like walking me through that workflow. And then I just simply explained, I was like, well, now that it's integrated, you can just go into the brand catalog, find the image that you want to share it immediately with the client, or build like a beautiful collection or wish list for them, and send it that way. And it really cut out a lot of manual effort on her and her team's end. So that is a huge benefit that we've seen. And then part of it as well is you get AI insights with that catalog. So for example, let's say I came into the store and I purchased an A Jaffe engagement ring. 3 to 4 months later may be the perfect time to reach out to me with some suggested wedding bands that go along with that engagement ring. So what our AI insights tool will do was it will generate that activity and provide those recommendations for you and say, hey, Josh bought this engagement ring. Here are those wedding bands that go along with it. So it's a really easy way to stay connected with your customers and provide them relevant recommendations. Thank you so much for answering that one. And then the last one I just wanted to mention was our unified inbox. I'll go ahead and launch this one as well. So with our unified inbox, if you want it enabled, we can go ahead and enable for you. I guess, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned, I should have added an option right there. I wonder if there's a way I can edit it. It looks like I can't. That was my bad. we'd love to get connected with you. And if you want to at least learn more about it before it gets enabled, anyone that's answering yes, we'll reach out to you first just to make sure that you're okay with it and you understand. It is still technically within beta, but there have been no major reported bugs, anything that's come from it. And it's been a really cool instance of helping out our clients just kind of stay connected with their customers. So for those that are even answering no as well, we may just like reach out to you just to kind of confirm, and we can also let you know maybe when it actually launches live and you can just enable that feature. That was my bad. I should have included a CSM option, but I'll just blame. It's going to say it's a Monday, but it's not a Monday.
It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday. Cool. Perfect. A few more seconds and. Oh, I guess that was actually my question. You want to learn more about it. I didn't want to say enabled. I was thinking this morning. Okay, perfect. So we'll reach out to you. We would love to get that connected for you and your stores. Perfect. Well, thank you. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, right? So we want to talk about associate assignments and just a really high level overview. Again, the biggest change that we've made to our platform, this is probably one of the biggest changes that we've made in our platform in a while, besides our AI assistant, is having just one designated sales associate. In the past, you had multiple sales associates assigned to one client, and it was creating a lot of confusion, right? Everyone was getting the same reminders. Everyone was, when it was choosing an auto message for it to come from, we were trying to be as selective as possible, but clients would ask us like, well, why did this message come from this sales associate? And there's no clear answer to that. So with this change, we want to provide that clarity, and we'll first kind of dive into automations when it comes to reminders and auto messages. So yeah, Meg, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So when it comes to sales triggers and getting those configured, you'll notice that our reminders as an action in the sales trigger is going to look a little bit different. So here on the screen, you can see that the reminder assignment is going to be between either the assigned associate to that client, or it can go to the associate who actually completed the transaction with that client. So you'll be able to choose which associate really gets that reminder and is going to own the relationship with that client in terms of reaching out after that sale. So if the client is not currently assigned to any associate, then it's going to automatically assign them based on that transaction that comes through. And so they will automatically start getting those reminders populating in their account.
Perfect. And when it comes to auto message, I think you mentioned this, but yeah, anytime an auto message gets sent from the platform, it always comes from the assigned associate. So regardless of, who rung up the sale, the assigned associate comes from that. And I guess one big question that we've gotten over the last couple of weeks as we've launched this feature, just so everyone is aware, is when I add in a brand new client into Clientbook, I'll automatically get assigned to them. If it was someone that already lives within the platform and they're unassigned, let's say, Josh, I'm within your platform and I'm unassigned within it. And I come into the store and I make a purchase. From that initial sales transaction, if that client is unassigned, the associate that made that transaction will automatically become assigned to them. Scenario B, let's say I'm already assigned to Meg, for example, and I come into the store and I make a purchase with Adam, and Adam rings up the sale. When that transaction comes over, I will still remain assigned to Meg. So once a client is assigned to a sales associate, they'll never automatically be reassigned to anyone else. That's all just part of a manual effort. But what this does for you, again, let's use that scenario. I'm assigned to Meg, but Adam is the one that rings up the sale. You can configure the system to say, well, should Meg get that reminder to follow up with Josh, or should Adam get that reminder to follow up with Josh? So it kind of gives it a little bit more flexibility of who needs to follow up with who without really messing up the associate assignments. So, perfect.
And then the auto messages, like you were saying earlier. So this is going to be for auto messages with sales triggers, life events, clean and check messages. Any auto message within Clientbook is always going to be from that assigned associate. And that includes when you use the associate name variable in those auto messages, that will always be the name of whoever is assigned to that client.
Cool. And visually speaking too, one really big highlight you'll notice here, anytime an auto message is sent from the platform, it now visually looks a little bit different. It'll have this little lightning bolt icon, and it will let you know it's an automated message because it's a centralized platform. It's all coming from the same number anyway. But at least when you're looking at the message thread, you get a little bit more clarity knowing like, hey, this was an auto message versus it was sent manually from an associate. Cool. So jumping into a little bit in the inbox, and this is a really important feature. I actually just got off a training call this morning. One of my clients reached out to me and they're curious about, now that we can't assign ourselves to clients, how do I get notifications when they message in, right? Again, using this scenario, let's say May is my go-to associate, but I make a purchase with Adam, and Adam needs to follow up with me, and he needs to know needs to know when I message into the platform. This kind of feature kind of answers that question.
Yeah, so when you are the assigned associate, if a client messages in, their message is automatically going to go to your My Inbox. Now, if you need to invite, so if I need to invite Adam to my conversation with Josh, I can go ahead and swipe on the conversation and click that invite button and have him join that conversation. And now he will also get Josh's message to his inbox. I can also choose to join other associate conversations. So if I need to follow up with someone else who's with a different assigned associate, I can go find that conversation within my store's inbox and add myself as a follower so I can make sure that those messages are coming into my inbox as well. Once I'm done with that conversation, if I'm not the assigned associate and I no longer need those notifications, I can then choose to leave that conversation. So now the assigned associate will still get those messages, but I don't need to be notified. So it's going to remove it from my inbox.
Perfect. So when it comes to these assignments as well, there's a couple different scenarios or lenses that you can look at this change as well. So we're going to kind of dive into what it looks like from an admin or manager and what it looks like for a sales associate.
Yeah, so as an admin or a manager, you're going to be able to see the assigned associate for a client and then change that assigned associate. So you'll see a change button. When you click that, it's going to give you a list of all available associates, and then you can go ahead and move it to one of them or even just unassign the client in general. So they don't need to be assigned, they don't have to be, but we can always change that assignment as a manager and make sure that everything reflects what we need it to.
Mhm.
And then from the associate side, once a client is assigned to an associate, we're not going to be able to make that change as an associate ourselves unless that client is actually unassigned. If they have no assigned associate, we can choose to assign them to ourselves and own that relationship moving forward. So associates will need a little bit of assistance changing their assignments. So if they need to move one client to a different associate, they can either ask for help from their admin or they can unassign themselves and let that other associate pick up the now unassigned client.
Perfect. So we kind of talked about level 2 at the top of the hour. We talked a little bit about auto messages. So reminders is where it gets a little bit more nuanced, right? Because now with this new kind of like economy, we can choose who these reminders go to. So kind of diving into that portion of it.
Yeah, so there's going to be 3 scenarios here. The first one is when this client is unassigned. They have no assigned associate, but I, as the associate, go in to add a reminder to follow up with Selena here. We can go ahead and add a reminder, and that's going to default assigned to me because there's no one else that this reminder should go to. I'm the one creating the activity, so it's going to be automatically assigned to myself.
Perfect.
Similarly, in scenario B, if the client is already assigned to me, when I create the reminder, it's going to default to me since it can see, I'm already the assigned associate, I'm going to be following up. So it's going to default to yourself as that assigned associate. And then the final scenario here is if I'm following up with Josh and he's actually assigned to Adam now, when I create that reminder, it's going to ask, do I want to follow up as the person creating the reminder, or should this reminder go to the person who is assigned to that client? So should this go to me or to Adam?
Perfect. And that's kind of like, yeah, that's a little bit of overview. So just kind of going back to the top of the hour a little bit before we jump into like Q&A, I just like want to mention. So when it comes to those automations, especially those sales triggers, you now can kind of choose who do I want those reminders going to? Do I want it go to who rung up the sale, or do I want it always going to the assigned associate? And as we kind of walk through here, you don't have to be assigned to a client to follow up with them. Our system, you can follow conversations through the inbox. And then lastly, when it comes to those reminders, whether it's automated or a manual reminder, you basically to pick and choose, right? So if I create a reminder and they're unassigned and if I'm assigned to them, they'll automatically just show up for me on my today page. It's really kind of going back here. It's whenever they're assigned to someone else, it will always pop up with a prompt and let you know. So this is inclusive of like sales opportunities, client activity, whatever it may be. If you have any type of auto reminders that get triggered by something within our platform, our system will ask you, hey, who do you want these reminders going to? It's just kind of a courtesy. Again, by default, if they aren't assigned to anyone or they're assigned to you, it won't pop up with this prompt. So with that said, I can see that there are a few questions that are kind of coming in through the chat. So we want to make sure that we're answering those questions and yeah, making sure everyone's going okay. So the first question that kind of came through, how often are you redistributing the associate assignments? Do you want to take this one or?
You go ahead.
Okay, cool. Well, so the simple answer is we're not, right? This is kind of upon request. And so if you want us to help you in this initial run, right, and you say like, hey, I want you to run this associate assignment report and assign my associates based off of like purchase history, we can go ahead and do that for you. Honestly, anytime. Like I said, it's upon request. We're not doing it automatically for you. There isn't a cadence for that. The idea is once we've done that for you, then moving forward, you know, either based on your point of sale integration that you have or you manually doing it, it's kind of up to the individual merchants to keep it updated. But that's also, we want to be strategic partners and we want to help you out. And if there's a time that you need help with that, you can reach out to your CSM at any time or our support team, and we're more than happy to assist you with that. So we will not automatically do that. It's something that is kind of done upon request. So Carrie asked, if associates are reassigned in Clientbook, will that information flow into Edge on the unassigned associate field? We would like to make this happen so assigned associates info is consistent between the platforms. I think that's a fair question. So let me reread it. So if associates are reassigned in Clientbook, will that information flow into Edge? So that's actually a really fair question. I would love to follow up with you, Carrie, just because I'm not exactly sure what that looks like in the Edge, right? Because ideally how it works, whether it's Edge, whatever point of sale that you're using, right? You know, when you input that sale into your point of sale system, that will come over and that will help us determine who needs to be assigned within Clientbook. I wasn't aware that there was like basically an assigned associate field like within Edge. I always knew that was like part of the reporting to kind of let you know. But yeah, that's certainly something. So Carrie, we'll follow up with you individually on that one because we would love to see what field specifically you're talking about. Because there obviously are certain fields within our point of sale that communicates back and forth with the Edge and some of our other point of sales. So we'll connect with you and we would love to make sure that we're answering that kind of correctly. So Joe is asking, so we have to go into each client's profile one by one. There has to be a way to change it to the last sold associate in general. Yeah, so by default, I mean, so this is what the report can do for you, right? By default, we can do that for you. We can just run that report. We do it based on sold. So historically speaking, though, that's how our system's been doing. But the problem that, not the problem, but one of the things that we're trying to fix is we were just piling on associate assignments on their profile. So it was something that we already were kind of doing. If you were to go into your platform, you'll see kind of a distribution of clients to your assigned associates. And that's always based on sales. That's always been the way it's been done. But one thing that we're eliminating is the ability to have multiple assigned associates to one platform. So with this report that we can run for each of your stores, we can easily just redistribute it because again, when there may be multiple people assigned to one profile, when we made this change, we did the best that we could to assign the associates based on that purchase history, but we may have missed some. And that's been some of our feedback that we've got in the last month is as merchants have been reviewing their Clientbook account, they kind of said like, well, this kind of seems like off, so let's just make sure that everything is set up properly. And that's what we want to do for you ultimately. Perfect. Where on the back end do I go to toggle to last sold associate like they showed on the screen? It's not clear from your cropped screenshot. So
think that might be for associate who sold the item, sales triggers.
Yeah. So hold on. So where do I go on the back end to go to toggle to last sold associate like they show on the screen? It is not clear from your cropped screen. Okay. So let's try and go back a little bit to just to make sure that like we understand, right? So within your platform, ideally based on purchase history, right, your associates are assigned. Or maybe do you understand what she's asking? What
If it was a screenshot, if you go back just a couple more. No, you
oh,
want to go
sorry.
back. Sorry. This one.
This one right here.
Yeah, I think this one might be the one that she's referring to with the associate that sold the item. This field right here is going to be within the sales triggers and within a specific action. So you'll go to your setup at the top of your navigation bar, over to sales in the left-hand column, and then sales triggers. Click into the one you want to edit, and you'll see a list of actions. This is a screenshot of one of those actions, specifically a reminder. So if you have a reminder, you can go ahead and go in there and select whether that goes to the assigned associate or the associate who sold the item. So that's where this screenshot is coming from.
Cool, perfect. Yeah, thanks for answering that. And one thing I just want to highlight too, so yeah, with any of our actions, you can choose, do I want a reminder to the sales associate to complete a task, or do I want it sent as an auto message? Quite a lot of our clients will use this as an auto message, but if you are utilizing it as a reminder, right? So in this scenario, we want to trigger a reminder to send a review link message. That's where you would choose, hey, do I want this going to the assigned associate, or do I want it to go to the person that sold them that item? So, yep, this is found underneath sales triggers. Perfect. So Matt hasn't, if we'd like our clients' assignments to be based off assigned associate in the edge, we can generate that report to our CSM will assist with your assignments. Yep, that's exactly it, right? So there's really two scenarios here, right? We can either, like I said, we can run a report, and based off the data that we have, based on purchase history, we can help with those reassignments. But if you, from the Edge or Shopkeeper, Shopify, whatever point of sale that you're on, if you have a report you would rather us base these assignments off of, send that report our way. We'll upload that for you. We'll get that taken care of for you. So, do assigned associates copy over from Shopify point of sales? Simple answer.
Yeah.
Yes. So any of our integrations, they come from that point of sale. But again, so regardless if it's Edge or Shopify, whatever it may be, in its current state, if I come into the store and I make a purchase, well, let's say it's my first time making a purchase in Shopify or Edge, whatever it may be, I'll get pulled over in a client book and I'll automatically get assigned to that sales associate. If I already live within your point of sale or already live within client book, and I'm assigned to someone else and I make that purchase in Shopify or Edge, I'll get pulled over, the transaction will come over, but I won't be automatically reassigned to someone else. I'll stay assigned to that sales associate. So regardless of what point of sale that we're integrated with, those transactions will come over and they'll assign and themselves if they're unassigned or if it's a brand new transaction. Stephanie asks, so what happens to assigned customers reminders and opportunities when associate account is deactivated? That's a fair question. Whenever a client or an associate gets deactivated from the platform, you'll actually have the ability to choose who you want those assignments to be redistributed to. So it'll be based on who you redistribute those kind of actions to. If it wasn't to the assigned sales associate within your store platform, you can choose, it's usually going to be defaulted to the admin or the manager, right? But that's a really fair question. But ideally, what would happen when you delete them from their profile, if you delete them like out of client book, you'll get to choose who you want to basically assign those clients to, and in turn, whatever those reminders are effectively. Cool. So just to confirm, if I sell someone an engagement ring, original sales associate, and then one of my colleagues helped them a year later on bands, they create a reminder to follow up 3 days, would they become assigned to that customer? So no, they wouldn't. So I come into the store, I purchase something from you, Dustin, I get assigned to you, I will always be assigned to you within the platform, unless you or another admin or manager goes in and manually changes that. So I'll always be with you. Then a year later, I come in and make a purchase with Meg and I buy a wedding band. Uh, that transaction will come over. But then kind of coming to this slide, this is actually where you get to choose, right? So in this scenario, do you, Dustin, want to receive the reminder to follow up with Josh? Or do you want that reminder to go to Meg because she was the one that rung up that sale? So that's where it is a little bit more nuanced, but Meg wouldn't be assigned to Josh now, but she would get that reminder if you had set it up for the person that sold them to get that automation. Couple more questions here. So are purchases defined as just purchasing a piece, or does that include repair services? That's actually a really fair question. In my experience here, it kind of depends on each of the point of sales. But usually what we see is if I come into the store and I put in like a repair order, when you input that into the Edge or Shopify, whatever it may be, that's usually when it gets pulled over into Clientbook. Because whenever you input it, it doesn't necessarily mean that the money has been taken out or whatever it may be. It's like you've input that repair and that will show up in Clientbook from there. So repairs do get pulled over. Like I said, it does vary a little bit based on the point of sale, but usually from what I see, it's whenever you intake it for the very first time. And I'm glad Meg is here to just confirm my ramblings. Cool. Perfect. And Sarah kind of had a question too. And I can see that Adam is typing out an answer to it, but maybe this could be like relevant for the team as well. So on the sales trigger screenshot under type, it has reminder and message option. Just want to make sure I heard you right. The reminder option is to send the assigned associate a reminder, and the message option is to send an automated message to the customer. You want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. The reminders that we have here are always going to go to the associate first, and then they are going to be the ones that complete that and send a message or follow up to the customer. Auto messages, they don't go to the associate first. That's going to go directly to the customer once this has been triggered. So you nailed it.
Yep. Yep. So reminders are for actions. Yeah, for the sales associate to execute on. Auto messages go directly to the client for you. With that said, we don't have a screenshot of it, so you just have to visualize with me. If you do have auto messages enabled for your store and you go to a client's profile, you don't want them to receive the auto message, you could always swipe on those auto messages and delete them from their profile. So yeah, you do have the ability whenever an auto message is triggered, you can just delete them from their profile. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Meg, thank you so much for joining us. I thought this was pretty engaging. There's quite a bit of follow-up on our end. Thank you again for responding to that poll. I'll make sure to get that information to your CSM and we'll be reaching out to you shortly. But hope you all have a great Wednesday and can't wait to see you at our next webinar. Thank you so much, everyone.
See ya.